Every generation gifts us a prodigy, someone who plays football not as a profession, but as poetry in motion. For France and for Rennes before Paris Saint-Germain, that name is Désiré Doué. Still a teenager, yet already carving his name into football history, Doué has combined fearless dribbling, composure beyond his years, and an eye for goals that ignites stadiums. But here's the thing, when Doué scores, it isn't just about putting the ball into the net, it's the context, the pressure, the stage, and the audacity of a player who refuses to bow to the weight of expectation. From Ligue 1 debuts to European nights, from breathtaking volleys to Champions League glory, Doué's goals aren't just memories, they're statements. And today we relive the very best of them. Strap in. This is the rise of a star, who might just be football's next great icon. The breakthrough, Rennes versus Brest, 2022. Every story begins with a spark, and for Désiré Doué, that spark came on August 31st, 2022, in a Ligue 1 clash against Brest. Just 17 years old, barely old enough to vote, yet handed the chance to make his mark on France's top flight. The ball found its way to Doué outside the penalty box. Most teenagers might panic. Most would look for the safe pass. But Doué? He had only one thing in mind. A sharp touch forward, a glance at goal, and then bang! A thunderous strike lashed into the net, leaving the goalkeeper frozen. The stadium exploded. Fans knew they had just witnessed the birth of something special. This wasn't just a goal. It was a teenager announcing himself to the world. Ligue 1 had a new jewel. European nights, Rennes versus Dynamo Kyiv. Great players prove themselves at home, but legends, they make Europe take notice. And on October 6, 2022, in the UEFA Europa League, Doué showed the continent what he was capable of. The clock ticked towards the 89th minute. For Rennes, a draw seemed likely. For Doué, it was unfinished business. Receiving the ball at the edge of the box, he swerved inside, skipped past a tired defender, and curled the ball into the far corner with a precision that defied his age. A teenager had just won the match with ice in his veins. At 17, he became the youngest French scorer ever in European competition. The cameras zoomed in on his face, calm, composed, almost unfazed. For him, this was just football. For Europe, it was a warning. The derby Brilliance, Rennes versus Nantes, 2022. 3 days later, destiny called again, and this time, it was a derby, Rennes versus Nantes. The kind of fixture where heroes are made and rivals are silenced. Doué stepped onto the pitch as a substitute. Within minutes, the ball dropped to him inside the box. Most would hesitate. Doué? He swung his foot with perfect timing, catching the ball flush on the half volley. It rocketed past the keeper before he could blink. The crowd erupted into a wall of noise, a teenager scoring in one of the fiercest rivalries in French football. This wasn't luck. This was talent. The kind you can't teach. PSG versus Le Mans, French Cup 2025. By 2025, Doué had joined PSG, a club where expectation crushes many, but where only the strongest survive. In the Coupe de France against Le Mans, he showed Parisian fans exactly what they had signed. In the 25th minute, the breakthrough came. Doué latched onto a loose ball in the box, shifting his weight before driving a crisp finish into the bottom corner. It wasn't just about the goal, it was the confidence, the calmness, the way he made it look routine. Paris fans roared. Another superstar was in the making, and his name wasn't Neymar or Mbappé, it was Désiré Doué. Champions League arrival, PSG versus Red Bull Salzburg, 2024. Every young player dreams of hearing the Champions League anthem, of stepping under the floodlights of Europe's grandest stage. For Doué, that dream became reality against Red Bull Salzburg. The ball broke kindly to Doué on the edge of the area. With one touch to set himself, he drilled the ball past the goalkeeper, his first Champions League goal. At just 19 years old, Doué had scored on the biggest stage of all, and he wasn't done. The statement game, PSG versus Brest, UCL Knockout 2025. The knockout stage's test character. Pressure suffocates even the most talented. But in PSG's crushing 7-0 win over Brest, Doué was unstoppable. He scored, assisted, and dictated play like a veteran. His finishing was clinical, his passing decisive. But beyond the statistics, it was his confidence that shone brightest. Brest defenders couldn't touch him. This was the night Europe realized PSG had more than Mbappé. They had another prodigy destined for greatness. The ice-cold nerve, PSG versus Liverpool, round of 16, 2025, Anfield. A cathedral of football, a place where dreams are broken and legends are forged. PSG needed a moment of composure, and Doué delivered. Stepping up to take a penalty, the weight of millions watching, Doué was unshaken. A deep breath, a steady run-up, and then, cool as ice, he slotted the ball home. PSG advanced. Liverpool were out. It wasn't just a goal. It was proof that Doué, even under the heaviest pressure, could deliver with nerves of steel. The quarterfinal rocket, PSG versus Aston Villa, 2025. Sometimes a goal is more than just a goal. It's a message. Against Aston Villa in the quarterfinals, Doué sent one loud and clear. Picking the ball up from distance, Doué didn't hesitate. He unleashed a thunderbolt that arrowed into the top corner. The crowd gasped, commentators screamed, and suddenly Europe knew this wasn't just a teenager scoring goals. This was a generational talent. The title clincher, PSG versus Angers, 2025. League titles are won in small moments. One goal here, one finish there. Against Angers, Doué delivered the strike that sealed PSG's Ligue 1 crown. In a tight contest, Doué found himself in space. With surgical precision, he slotted the ball into the corner. 1-0 PSG. 3 points, title secured. The teenager had scored the goal that crowned Paris as champions of France. Champions League final, PSG versus Inter Milan, 31st May 2025. And then came the biggest stage of them all, the Champions League final, PSG versus Inter Milan, a night of destiny. What followed was the performance of a lifetime. Doué scored not once, but twice. His first, a clever run into the box, finishing calmly past the keeper. His second, a rocket that shook the net, leaving Inter defenders in despair. And as if 2 goals weren't enough, he also delivered an assist, feeding a teammate for PSG's third. At full-time, PSG were champions of Europe. Doué had become the first teenager ever to score twice, an assist in a Champions League final. The cameras captured his smile, his teammates lifting him high. A teenager had conquered Europe. From a debut strike at Rennes to conquering the Champions League with PSG, Désiré Doué's journey has been nothing short of breathtaking. His goals aren't just numbers on a stat sheet. They're milestones in a story that is still being written. Every strike speaks of composure. Every finish whispers of greatness. And every celebration reminds us that this is just the beginning. Because if these are the best goals so far, imagine what's still to come. The future of football has a name, and it is Désiré Doué.